That makes sense? Probably not. I don't know. Whatever. Welcome to Bathrobe Philosophy, Episode 1. I have a topic now. I figured, what better place to start than the start of it all? The start of philosophy as a practice, as a school of thought. So today, we're going to be talking about Socrates and Plato, or as I like to call them, Barefoot Toddler and his rich, overachieving fanboy. Let's get into it. So, let's begin with Socrates, the original bathrobe philosopher, just without the bathrobe. Often regarded as one of the wisest people to have ever lived, also a fantastic soccer player.
Here he comes on the far post. Socrates is there. Socrates headed in. Socrates has scored. The Greeks are going mad.
He was born in Athens, probably around 469 BC, to a stonemason and a midwife. Wasn't poor, he wasn't rich, just kind of middle of the road Athenian. Plato, on the other hand, was born into the blue-blooded Athenian aristocracy. What's interesting about Socrates is that he never wrote anything down. Almost everything we know about him comes from other sources, most notably Plato. Socrates' whole thing, the reason why we hail him in such high regard today, is that his existence, if you will, was based on asking questions. Just asking questions until whoever he was talking to started questioning everything that they thought they knew. We now call this the Socratic method, but I think of it more like a toddler who just keeps asking you why and why and why and why. And it doesn't matter what you say, they're just going to keep asking why until you lose your entire worldview. I mean, that's basically what he was doing. It's not about getting answers, it's about poking holes in what you think you know until the proverbial balloon pops. Philosophy by demolition, if you will.
Destroy! Build! Destroy!
Now, here's where it gets pretty interesting to me. You got Athens, home of the big D. Democracy. Commonly hailed as the birthplace of modern democracy, which, yeah, sure, but it also serves as one of the earliest and worst examples of how democracy can go very wrong. After their little golden age, the people of Athens sort of lost it. They went full mob rule real quick. People stopped voting with their best interests in mind. They started voting with their ego and fear and revenge on their mind. They even voted to exile or just straight up kill people who they didn't like or who disagreed with what they were trying to do. Eventually, they voted to kill Socrates as well because he wouldn't shut up, because he questioned everything they were doing, the system they were building. He made people feel stupid about how certain they were that they were doing the right thing, again by his system of asking questions. Athens, the birthplace of democracy, becomes the first historical case study in what happens when democracy loses its spine, when it becomes a popularity contest for the angry and the afraid. Socrates was officially charged with corrupting the youth and impiety, which basically means he made my kid think too much and now I feel threatened. So, they sentenced him to death. He drank hemlock, poisonous, and that was that. No more Socrates. Now, on to Plato. Plato, as I mentioned, came from wealth and privilege. He studied with the best. His family could afford it, and the best at the time was Socrates. After Socrates' death, which really moved Plato, it changed the course of his life significantly. He was a student of Socrates. He nearly worshipped the man and watched him be put to death for speaking his mind. And that obviously had a tremendous effect on him. Plato sort of became his ultimate hype man, if you will, the most ride or die fanboy there ever was. He basically spent the rest of his life writing dialogues that turned Socrates into an icon. In Plato's world, Socrates was always the smartest man in the room. Everything Plato learned from Socrates eventually turned into his own system of philosophy. One of his big ideas was the theory of the forms, the notion that everything we experience in reality is some sort of imitation of the real idea that only exists in an abstract, perfect realm. It's kind of a lot to wrap your head around, I know, but take beauty, for example. You can look at a painting or a piece of art and you can say, that's beautiful. I like this because it's beautiful. But why do you think it's beautiful? Where does that sense of beauty come from? For Plato, it comes from your personal relationship to a higher ideal form of beauty that exists beyond this world. This beautiful art object can and will eventually deteriorate and lose its beauty, but the idea of beauty still exists. I mean, the perfect beauty exists in another form, in a different realm, right? It's why we all interpret things differently. Why one person might like this, and another person might say, that's shit. Look at this instead. This is much better. Plato also gave us the allegory of the cave, which sort of links back to that same theory of the forms and reality not being what reality is. The allegory of the cave. It's a story about people chained in a cave, facing a wall, watching shadows, and they all think the shadows are reality because that's all they've ever known. How could they possibly understand reality as something different? One of them eventually escapes, sees the real world for what it really is, comes back to try to explain what he saw to the rest, and naturally they are very confused and angry and they try to kill him. Sounds familiar? It's Socrates again, just embedded within metaphor. So, again, the impact of Socrates on Plato's life cannot be understated. I mean, the dude truly meant everything to him. So, why is this important? You got two dudes who lived about 2,400 years ago. One never wrote anything, the other couldn't stop writing if his life depended on it. Why should you care? Because right now we live in a world that is drowning in certainty. Everyone has a take, everyone knows what's right, everyone has an opinion on everything. Nobody wants to say, I don't know. But Socrates did. He built his whole life around not knowing, asking questions, wanting to dig deeper to learn the truth. And that's why he still matters. That's why I'm sitting here in a bathrobe with no editor and no idea what I'm doing, because philosophy doesn't need to be pompous or academic. It can be weird and cozy and fun. You don't need a degree to ask a question. You just need to be willing to not know the answer. And that concludes episode 1. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, or maybe even unlearned something. I don't know what's coming next. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what the robe has to say. Until then, stay curious, and most importantly, stay cozy.